In fact, the numbers that we've just got for the first quarter, most of which was before the coronavirus, and we were seeing reductions in both gas prices and electricity prices of 40 to 50%, wholesale prices that is. Now, we want to see those passed on to consumers. That's enormously important. That's why we passed legislation through the Parliament recently to ensure that electricity price reductions at the wholesale level are passed through. They're about up to half of a typical consumer's overall bill, significantly more for big commercial and industrial customers. And this is very, very important. There's a real opportunity here as we see energy prices back to those low levels that we've enjoyed in Australia historically, to see a gas-fired, electricity-fired recovery of manufacturing in this country. It is a great opportunity. We want to see those prices pass through, and we want to see investment in those downstream customer industries that are enormously important right across outer suburban and regional Australia.
Okay, it's only good news if bills are reduced. So what kind of saving will people see on their bills, whether you're retail, residential or commercial on their next bill?
Yeah, sure. So the reductions we saw in the first quarter, as I said, are 40 to 50% across electricity and gas. Every market is a bit different, Laura, but they're very significant reductions, and they're about half of a typical consumer's bill. They're significantly more than half for a big commercial industrial customer's bill. Those big customers tend to be on longer term contracts, so it depends on the timing of your contract, it depends when they roll over. But these are very significant reductions, and we'll be watching very closely, as will the ACCC. I've been speaking to the Chairman, Rod Sims, about this, to make sure those reductions are passed through. They're very substantial, and they have the potential to really fuel a recovery on the other side of COVID-19.
Well, energy consumption has significantly dropped due to COVID-19. What kind of effect has the pandemic had on prices?
Well, it's gone further than the 40 to 50%. We're seeing reductions of 50% plus since COVID-19 in the wholesale prices, since COVID-19 really set in. Demand hasn't fallen as much as you might think on electricity because households are actually consuming more, and this is something we are concerned about. Households are increasing their consumption of electricity, just as they're increasing their consumption of data when they for the internet. So that is something that every household is no doubt keeping an eye on, or many households are keeping an eye on. But we are seeing very significant reductions in liquid fuel demand, and that's why there's this great opportunity right now. We're seeing to buy a strategic fuel reserve, building a strategic fuel reserve at historically low prices. And that, of course, is very much demand driven, very sharp reductions in demand, particularly for jet fuel and to a lesser extent petrol. Diesel's hanging on, but it creates a great opportunity for Australia to build this strategic fuel reserve.
Yes, you announced this yesterday, up to almost $100 million to be spent on building a strategic fuel reserve, but it's in the United States. So how strategic is it if it's not on home soil?
Well, initially it is, because there's no storage left almost in the world. We've seen this bizarre situation where when salt prices go negative in recent days because there was just nowhere to store it. Now, we, through our very strong relationship with the United States, have the capacity to, in the short term, store fuel in the United States, store crude oil in the United States. Obviously, we want to bring that strategic fuel reserve closer to home over time. We've been in discussions with the refiners about options to do that, locations to do that. And that's the ultimate goal. But right now, it is such a good opportunity to start building this reserve. You know, $100 or $94 million goes a long way buying fuel at current prices. That wouldn't have been the case even a few months ago. So we've decided to step in and start building that reserve. What it means in practice, Laura, and this is enormously important, if you are a fuel-using industry, you're in farming, manufacturing, mining, transport, you're a truckie, as well as commuters, you know the government has your back if there is a global fuel disruption. Many of us remember the big disruptions we saw in the early 70s and the 80s. They had a real impact on those sorts of industries. If you're a farmer, you've got to get your crop off and there's no diesel, this is a calamity for you. So that's why we're building this reserve. Enormously important. It'll take time to get it all located in the right places, but now's the time to get